everybody. Here we are. Welcome to everybody. And in case we haven't met before, my name is Noreen Savage, and I get asked all the time, why am I doing these? How did I get started doing these? And I'll just tell you very briefly. I was acquainted with Bright Line Eating through my friend Lori. She posted on her private Facebook page in May of 2019, said she lost 57 pounds, and anybody could ask her questions, just private message her. So I quickly went over to my private messenger as fast as my fingers could take me there. And she proceeded to tell me about the 4 bright lines: no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, and weighed and measured portions. And I thought to all of that, no way. There is no way I could do all of that. Even though here I was sitting at 270 pounds at 5'2", that's a lot of weight. And I had a lot of pain in my knees and my feet, my back. Some nights I wondered if I'd wake up in the morning. And I met with Lori, still wasn't convinced, but after a couple months, the pain convinced me and made me willing. And believe it or not, now I'm grateful for that pain, because it brought me to Bright Line Eating, and it brought me to a really wonderful way of life. So if you're new, I encourage you to hang in there. And we've got some special guests tonight. I just want to tell you a little quickly. People also ask, how do I find my guests? Well, it's because the first year I was on the internet all the time. This was my support system. It continues to be my support system. I joined We Eat Bright with Lines, and I saw those pictures. I saw the good and the tough stories, and I just became family with everybody. And when I hit 1 year, I promised myself if I hit 1 year, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would post on Facebook and I would help anybody I could. And just before that year was up, I'm a Christian, and I felt God was telling me, Noreen, you can do a little bit more than that. It was, COVID, Zoom chats were happening, and I had this feeling like I could just connect people through Zoom. If they could just see all these great people I've met, this would give them confidence to keep going. Well, through these Zoom chats with you all, you may know that there's a Starting Out Bright private group. Well, a few weeks ago, I was looking at the February calendar and I thought, I would love a wonderful couple to be in here. And I am having Tony and Beth Wade next week. I had one, but I wanted a couple of couples. I wanted people to know you can do this as a family. And the funny thing is, I put a call out on Starting Out Bright, and I said, does anybody want to do a service project? I had this great big hairy idea of taking all of Susan's blogs and connect them with the links and put the topics in, and wouldn't that be great? Well, less than 5 minutes later, here's Sarah volunteering, and she did a fantastic job. If you're not in the group, that alone is worth it just to have access to that. But as we got chatting on Messenger, I asked how long she had been doing Bright Line Eating, and one thing led to another. Found out her husband also did Bright Line Eating, and hey, this is perfect. So I am so grateful that you two could be here today. And let me help you welcome Manu and Sarah Williams. If I could, we got a chance to chat a few days ago, which was wonderful. And I always like to do that because then I know what's on your heart as far as what you would like to share if you got the opportunity to. And so there's just so many great things. But I know this went in stages. You didn't start together. So Sarah, I believe you started first. Could you get the ball rolling and bring us up to speed? How did you get to Bright Line Eating? And then I'll give you a chance, Manu, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So my origin story, if you will, is similar to yours. I had a friend that posted on Facebook around Thanksgiving 2019 that she had lost 60 pounds since March of that year. And her post wasn't really about bright line eating. It was just about her weight loss and how great she felt. And so I kind of scrolled through the comments because of course I wanted to see what she had been doing. And she mentioned bright line eating. So I go to the website for bright line eating and I saw the 4 bright lines on the page and it said, no sugar, no flour, measured portions and 3 meals a day. And I said, well, that's nice for her, not for me. Close the web browser. No, thank you. I literally at that time thought that life would not be worth living if I didn't have sugar and flour in my life. So kind of put it out of my mind, but not totally. So that was Thanksgiving. So we did all of our regular Thanksgiving things and stepped on the scale the day after Thanksgiving to a number that I hadn't seen since I was 9 months pregnant with my son. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to just check out the book that, I like to read anyway. It was a 4-day weekend because it was Thanksgiving. So I went on the library app and checked out the ebook. And I'm like, I'll just give it a try. Well, I read the book in 2 days. By the end of the first day, I said, I'm doing this. This is the answer to all of the weight problems that have plagued me for the last decade. It's finally, she's speaking right to me. Lots of people say this when they read the book, and I was no different. So I think
Sarah, if I could ask you right there, was it the science? I know it was for me when I read the first 5 chapters about the science.
Yes.
It just connected everything.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to start before I even got to the food plan, really, because I knew from reading the science that this was why I had been unsuccessful at losing weight previously on all the different types of plans and diets and approaches that I had tried, is because I didn't understand the science. I didn't understand that it gets easier the less you cheat, not harder. Because I was always like, oh, just moderation, 80-20, I just need to get it under control and then I'll lose the weight. And that book just opened my eyes that it's not, I'm working against myself when I have that approach. So I was.
Yeah. And even I think we talked the other day too about the willpower gap that,
for sure.
I mean, you as a mom, kids.
Yep.
I think it really hits to the heart of it when you say, okay, I'm getting the kids to bed. And then that's
and when she talked about that in the book, I was like, you're talking right to me. That's me. I used all of my willpower to get the kids into bed and get their teeth brushed and stories read and clothes, pajamas on, everything, baths done. And then by the time I've done all that, well, I have nothing left to make good decisions for the rest of the night. So I am going to binge on sugar or whatever I can get my hands on. So that part really spoke to me as, having 2 young kids and working and all that. So so I decided to jump in the first day. I was halfway through the book and I mentioned it to him, but I was like, this is me. I took her advice of eyes on your own plate completely to heart. And I said, I am not doing this for anyone else, and I'm not expecting them to do it for me. I am doing it for myself. And I thought that her advice in the book was so spot on. And I was just not going to try to talk anyone else because I love to share things that I learn and get people involved. But I was like, no, this is
right.
If I have results, that's going to speak more than anything I have to say. So I knew that, and that was the principle that I followed. So I started, and I think I mentioned to you, the only part I wasn't on board with immediately was the measuring food, because I thought I could just eyeball the portions. I had done so much with food. I love to bake and cook and was very experienced cook. So I'm like, I can just eyeball it. I don't need to weigh. Well, no, I could not. Until you've weighed out, 10 ounces of green beans. You have no idea how much food that is. So I was severely under eating in the beginning and was starving.
Oh, I'll never forget breakfast. I had 4 ounces of rice, 2 eggs, and a banana. And I'm just looking at this. I'm like, I have not been eating this much for breakfast.
Yeah.
And I think you had the same thing. You're under eating.
I did.
You're making up for it through the day.
Yeah. I was taking pictures of my food and texting it to friends and stuff and being like, look at this giant meal I'm about to eat. I've never eaten this much at a meal, knowingly. Like I would, go back for seconds and snack and things like that. But I'd never plated such a large serving of food before and just felt so satisfied after I ate it. Once I was weighing my portions. Now, before that, I was under eating, but once I started weighing my portions, no. So anyway, so I started on November 30th, 2019. And then his day one was December 31st, 2019. So you want to talk about how you decided to give it a go after seeing me eat my dinosaur salads?
I also want to think, know what you thought too. Here you're watching her, but now you get started, right?
Yeah. So and leading up, like as she mentioned, she didn't try to bring me along with her, and like, historically, that hadn't necessarily been the case. So when she mentioned doing this thing, that was probably the most structured of all of the diets that we've tried combined. I was really dismissive of it, even though she wasn't trying to recruit me to do it. But I wasn't like I was struggling with my own weight issues just as much, even though I dismissed this thing. I was really struggling with it, and just figured that I would find my way some other way. Not long after she started, I had a doctor's appointment, and I go to the doctor and sort of similarly to her, get on the scale, and 367.8, and
That's always a good time.
or whatever it was, almost
what was it?
It's heavier than I've ever been.
370.
I think the scale went up to 400, and so I was worried if she was ever going to stop and be able to weigh me, the lady that was weighing me. So anyway, so I come back from that doctor's appointment. Actually, I stop and get fast food on the way home from that doctor's appointment. And I get back here, sort of in despair. And I think at this point, when it had the cookbook and the Bright Line Eating cookbook with Susan Pierce Thompson on it is staring at me. It's like sitting on top of the dog crate. And so I say that I end up saying to her, "Hey, so what about that book you said that you read?" And I get the book, and again, like the first 40 pages, where she sort of talks about her background are pretty compelling, and like that was enough to like keep me reading. And read the book a little bit longer than her, probably over the course of a couple of weeks, and decided that I was going to do it. I was going to try to start on at the new year on January 1st, and as she's doing it, I see more and more of the food that I was eating in these huge salads, and what 14 ounces of vegetables looks like in a sitting, and it's becoming more and more intimidating with each passing day. And
intimidating as in like you're scared to try it, or that you don't think you can keep up with her size of salad, or
and intimidating that I'm gonna fail out of it, and intimidating in terms of like it doesn't look very appetizing. And at some point, and I think it's in the slideshow, we put the breakout of all of the foods that's from the book or the website or wherever it's from on the refrigerator. And I started looking at it, and just for the first time in my life, I looked at it and I started thinking about it in terms of what are the things on here that I do like, instead of sort of turning my nose up at all these things that I'm not really a fan of. What are the things that I do like? And like it turned out to be a decent size list. So I made a shopping list and said, I guess to myself that maybe I'll just try this for a couple of days to see if I can do it, see if I can physically endure it. And yeah, I ended up going shopping and woke up on New Year's Eve. You know, I was going to start it on the 1st. I woke up on New Year's Eve, not even out of bed, eyes opened, and enough is enough. I have to do something. And I sat down to my first BLE breakfast on
That's awesome.
New Year's Eve of 2019, just hoping that, you know, maybe I could stick with it and enjoy some success. Oh, I forgot, I guess the critical part of the story, since we have BLE people here. At some point before I did, you know, commit to starting, I had concerns that this was a girl's diet.
Oh.
You know, she showed me the Facebook group and so forth, and like it seemed to be women, you know, just women, and like women, I would say, you know, my age and older. So I didn't feel, you know, I didn't feel like maybe it was speaking all the way to me. And then as she gets more engaged on Facebook, she says, "Hey, come check out this guy. I think he's some kind of sports writer in Northern California. He's doing BLE. He's lost 100 pounds in 6 months." Yes, please. And she shows me the profile, and it's BLE, the godfather of BLE now, Tony Wade.
Tony Wade coming up next week with
Yeah.
his wife Beth. And I was on that. I was watching Tony because we were in the We Write with Lines before the official group even began. I don't think the official Facebook page was there yet.
Yeah.
And I was watching Tony week after week. I mean, while he was losing. So yeah, that's so great that you did see that. And yes, it's not just a frou-frou ladies
So it gave me
program.
a big push in terms of thinking that, okay, this is something that I might be able to do and have some success. And
so you got going
months ago.
Okay, so just overall, you said you started about 370, right? And how much have you lost?
168.
That's just correct. And Sarah, you started at?
I started at 199.
Okay, and you lost 50 some?
Yeah, I'm at like 148,
So
149. Yeah, right about 50. Yep.
So you are both at about maintenance, right? You're into maintenance, right?
We're both on maintenance.
That's awesome, because I saw that at the top of your fridge sheet that you have maintenance ads. So how many additions do you have? For those who are new, when you have the weight loss program, when you get to, I think it's within 10 pounds of where you want to land.
Yeah.
You start adding in extra food, which is to me just incredible.
I know. It's so great. I love that about Bright Line Eating. Other weight loss plans, the more weight you lose, the less you get to eat, right? Because you have to like adjust your calories so it's in line with your body weight. And that just seems so depressing.
Like how does that work?
We get to add food.
Yeah. Wow. That's so incredible. So if you, when you go through this thought that living through what you did in the past year and a half, 2 years, right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember thinking, if I could just get through today, is that how you felt? Was there like an incredibly hard part, or did you pretty much go into it? I mean, Manu, you are already seeing Sarah live it, but are you feeling like it was all that difficult after a few days, or?
If I was answering this question at the
comparatively easier
of day one, it felt like climbing Everest. Well, maybe not at the end of day one, but I didn't feel very confident at first. It built up for me probably over a period of 3 or 4 weeks, where I felt like it was getting harder and harder. This was a period over in the winter, so it was over January, kind of the a dreary part of the year. So it was hard building up to really hard for about a month. We had a trip scheduled to go and visit my son in Chicago at the end of January. And so the hardest day was sort of doing this, being new to this, 4 weeks into this, and taking our family of 4 on a plane and, sort of navigating, and, it was over mealtime. It was, so it was, we had to, eat in the airport and pack food and take it on the plane and all of this stuff. And that was probably the hardest day that I've experienced on this. And we get to Chicago and it's late and it's freezing. Sorry if anybody lives in Chicago. It's very, we live in San Diego. So
Well, right now Texas is pretty cold too. I'm in Michigan, so it's definitely cold.
But we survived that trip and get back and, life sort of resumes. And at some point, I don't remember exactly when, at some point in sometime in February, it occurs to me that I haven't really thought about being hungry or being, I had just been doing it. And so it just kind of overnight became automatic.
I was impressed by what you wrote one day. I was impressed by what you wrote. I thought it was a great mantra when you were talking about just getting to your next meal. Just get to your next meal. And I thought, that's such wise advice. Really. I mean, that's all you have to do. Yeah, it's easier said than done, though, sometimes.
Yeah, in the beginning, and the Facebook group has been a tremendous support to me. I don't comment very much, but I read it every day, and I like it when people ask sort of questions with regard to how do you start, or what's the what do you need to be able to start this program. And I would think about those questions, and as I would read through other people's answers, and it took me a while to come up with mine. But when I did come up with how I would answer that question, it was just that: if you can you eat what's described in a BLE breakfast and make it to lunch, and don't worry about tomorrow and 6 or 100 pounds in 6 months. Can you eat breakfast and get to lunch? Because you got to do that too. You got to, and you'll worry about the rest.
So what did the both of you, I'm sorry, what did the both of you
string that together 1,200 times or however many meals in time.
Exactly. What did you find most useful, both of you or whoever wants to go, what did you find most useful for tools for yourself? Did you take in the 14-day challenge or
no?
Not?
So all we both did was read the book. I ended up buying the book for $1.99 on Kindle. And actually I just bought a hard copy too, because I wanted to be able to loan it to people. So I just bought a hard copy a few weeks ago, actually, just in case people were interested and wanted to borrow it. And then I like kind of having a paper copy because it has the charts in it, but the Kindle copy is great too. So when I started it, because I was at a place in my life where I was so desperate to lose weight and I had tried so hard for years and my weight was just going up and up, that I decided to just do the plan exactly as written in the book, as far as the journaling, the gratitude journaling, the meditation. I did all of it. So I started my 5-year journal on January 1st, which was about a month after I started. I had a gratitude app on my phone that I would record every night. I meditated. I have Insight Timer is a free meditation app that you can get on iPhone. So I would use that. And wow, I never knew how those tools could impact weight loss. I'd never connected how much our mental state can impact the decisions we make about food. So one thing, you were talking about hunger, looking back in my 5-year journal, about March or April of last year, I stopped journaling about how hungry I was. So that's about how I know how I have a marker of when my brain stopped asking me for more food, because I definitely dealt with hunger a lot in the beginning. I drank lots of tea and sparkling water and things to try to mitigate it, but hunger was a big reality for me. So it's so interesting now to have this 5-year journal and see when that just fell out of my consciousness, really. I didn't think about being hungry anymore because my brain was so used to the 3 meals and I knew after having done it for so many months that it was going to be enough. I was going to be full by the end of the meal. I didn't have to worry anymore. Is this going to be enough food? Am I going to be hungry? And that was like a big concern for me in the beginning, is I'm going to eat this meal and then I'm still going to be hungry and I'm not going to be able to eat anything until the next meal. And that is just not okay with me. So that was, I thought, and then you've just started journaling. Right? He just started journaling this year. So I don't know if you want to share your experience, but I highly recommend journaling, and everyone that I've spoken with in the community, they wish they had started sooner. Nobody regrets doing it. Everyone wishes they had started sooner. So if you're, thinking about starting the plan, you don't have to buy a 5-year journal. You can just do it in a notebook for, 25 cents or whatever at the store. Just write down those thoughts, because it's so interesting looking back on them once you're further into the journey. So.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So what about you, Manu?
Yeah, what are the things
What were your tools?
I've journaled lately, but really through this I've relied a lot on the Bright Line official Facebook group. Like I said, I read it every day. I find it to be really people to be really inspirational, how vulnerable and how willing people are to share with their success and their failure. I found I went actually from being probably pretty anti-tea if I was to think about it, to I drink an unbelievable amount of tea every day. But mostly I've just relied on what I got from the book, and my routine.
So when we talked the other day, you were talking that there were a couple pieces though that were very critical to your success. If you could talk about those, that was very interesting.
So I thought it was 2 things really. One was that, and first time I've ever done this. One was I really prioritized BLE, and meaning every Saturday I have a standing appointment, especially since COVID started. I go shopping on Saturday morning, every Saturday morning. Nothing else in that block of time, but shopping. And it's just from the standpoint of the way my brain works. Well, like, you have to have the food available to do this, in order to stay within the plan. So I prioritized the shopping on the weekend. I kind of circumstantially took over meal prep. So every day, I block out time where I prepare meals, and so I do the shopping on Saturday. I prepare meals every day, and which sort of like leads into the second piece, which is organization. So I every single day that we've been doing this, what I have for lunch, leftovers from the previous night's dinner.
And you plan for that? You plan to make a little bit more?
Yeah, so that shopping list that I go to the store with on Saturday, and it took a while to sort of figure this out, but I figured it out down to the quantities of things that I'm going to get. how to bring home enough food that's going to last us a week for our family of 4, and that is going to be able to get me, you know, a BLE breakfast, a BLE dinner, and leftovers from the next day. So, you know, so it's going to be able to get us 3 meals. And what that does for me is it simplifies it simplifies sort of the amount of time that I spend, you know, sort of prepping food and put into what I'm going to eat. And like, I can use that time to do all the things that I still have to do around here on a normal day, just work and raise my family and clean the house, et cetera. So keeping it, making BLE so that it was sort of simple has been a big help to me, and prioritizing this, you know, basically getting food from the shelf to the table, prioritizing what it takes to do that has, I think, been critical to
That
me being able to be
success.
successful with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say, doing it as a couple was a lot different than when I did it by myself in November of last year, because just the quantity of vegetables that you have to eat when you're following this for 2 adults, it's a lot. And it's more than we had ever purchased before for a week. So really, I mean, I'm not a math person. He's an engineer. I work in finance, but I'm not really a math person. So for me, it was overwhelming. Like, I don't know how much to buy. I don't want to buy so much that it's going to go bad, but I don't want to get to Thursday night and we're tired and we have to go to work tomorrow, and all of a sudden we have no vegetables left in the house because it's such a staple of the menu, right? So that was kind of how we ended up with this system, because it is intimidating when you have 2 people doing it versus 1 person, because it's critical that you have those food components for every meal. Where before, when I was just doing it, I could just take all the vegetables and give, you know, everything else to everyone else. So
yeah, I was thinking about it often, like 20 ounces a day each.
yeah,
When you do the math, that's almost 18 pounds.
right,
And that's not even allowing for shrinkage.
right. Because
And that's not even allowing for your kids.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, it's really quite crazy when you think about it, especially if you're shopping 1 day a week, which is that's really discipline. But you're also gearing up your mind that you're actually not tempting yourself by going to the store all week too.
That's
Because
true.
every time you go in there.
I definitely found in the beginning going to the store was very triggering for me to see all of the NMF. Like it was, I don't know if other people have experienced this, but in the beginning it was almost like a sensory overload, seeing all of the NMF that I wasn't eating, all the snacks, all the sweets, things like that. It was just, I would kind of have to get tunnel vision and just go to the produce section and just go to the meat section, because it was overwhelming to me. All of a sudden, which is silly, I've gone to the grocery store my whole life, but all of a sudden, now that I wasn't eating that food, it was just like, it was larger than life when I would go to the store. So yeah, it's true that going to the grocery store can actually be a temptation in itself.
And so from what I'm hearing too, is that when you say simplify, you are talking about you use that spreadsheet to keep track of what you're buying, or maybe you put it on the sheet as you go through the week, but you have kind of a set amount of meals that you rotate. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's I forgot about that piece. So and going into this, or let me back up. I read a lot on Facebook where I'm not sure exactly how to describe it, but I think that like there's a tone where people are like looking for sort of meal variety and like always sort of like looking for meal ideas. And we kind of have like the same, you know, if we have maybe like a subset of 10 meals, and like we have 7 of them during the course of the week, and you know, that's kind of what we've been rolling with for, you know, 14 months. And I haven't gotten tired of it. One of the things that I really appreciate about eating this way is that it's made eating more, and I think it mentions this in the book. It's made eating more functional for me rather than you trying to find these things that are satisfying per se. It's made eating just about refueling and going about the rest of my day, and it's really underrated. I really appreciate it. I feel like we don't talk about it enough, but because that hasn't always been the way that I've lived. I feel like it's taken and recalibrated, so to speak, the threshold of what is satisfying.
I'm gonna put you kind of on the spot too, Manu, because you talk about coming from big numbers. And I'm just curious as you speak about this, as far as the functional eating. Looking back, and I was at 270, so for my frame, that is like a huge amount. I don't know how tall you are, but when I look back at that, you ate a lot. It's just not eating. It wasn't. I mean, to tell you a little story. Somebody mentioned about how much food you have on the plate, and my husband is the cook in our family. He makes these fabulous meals, and we have eaten healthy food. So anyway, I got to talking with somebody, and she said, "Do you feel like you eat more or less?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a really good thing to ask, because really, if you're talking about the first plate, it looked less, but I had second and thirds going before Tom was even sitting down to eat, pretty much. It was like I would take a small amount, but it was not purposeful. It was already, I'm thinking about what else I'm going to put on that plate. Whereas when I'm sitting down to this big, beautiful plate of, tonight was squash and green beans and cabbage and meatballs, and I'm like, this is absolutely amazing, and it looks huge. And it's like I'm just eating with purpose now. Is that what you're talking about when you're saying functional? And did you feel like you ate that way at all before?
Yeah, Manu? Yeah, to answer the first part of the question, yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm just, like the book says, like taking care of the biological need for a human being to eat. The other thing that BLE has sort of taught me is that there is, and it's crazy, there is a really big difference between being hungry and wanting to eat. And as I've sort of learned to identify that distinction over my time doing this, it's become apparent to me that I ate almost always because I wanted to eat, not because I was hungry.
Right.
I was in the military, so there were times when I was hungry. There were times in Iraq when I was hungry, but like here, or
No.
I ate almost always because I wanted to eat. I'm a pretty big consumer of sports on TV, and boom, the TV goes on, the game goes on. Give me something from Costco. And
so Sarah, I can totally identify with all of that. Sarah, what did you find for you was the biggest surprising benefit from Bright Line Eating?
So the biggest one for me, and it was immediate almost, like within the first few days, was how much my moods stabilized on this eating plan. I went from having crazy just blood sugar swings and mood swings with my kids, being impatient with them, just feeling like my emotions were completely out of control on a regular basis because I was constantly not eating because I wanted to not save calories or whatever I was doing at the time. So I wouldn't eat in the morning, and then I would be hungry. So then I would have some NMF, some sweet NMF to get, so I wasn't hungry anymore, but not a lot because I didn't want to have too much. And, it just was, I was on this roller coaster all the time. And within, if not hours, days of being on Bright Line Eating, I just felt so much calmer and more even with everything. And I was patienter with the kids. I mean, he mentioned it, he noticed it immediately. I think it was one of the things that kind of convinced you to start Bright Line Eating, is just the transformation. And it was just following the plan. That's all I was doing in the beginning, because that's all I had the capacity to do, was follow the food plan. It was not exercise, all the other things they tell you to do to help your mood. I wasn't doing any of that, because all I could do was get from one meal to the next meal to the next meal. So, and it has lasted this whole time, and it still is one of my best NSVs for this plan.
So what other NSVs have you had? For those that are new, it's non-scale victories. What else have you had besides the patients that you now have?
So
or maybe you can go back and forth.
Yeah. So I mean, there's obviously like medical improvements. I used to sleep with a CPAP. That's probably my favorite thing, is not sleeping with that anymore. I don't have any hair, so I would go to work with the CPAP straps, the lines from where
wow,
the indentations in my head, and just like hoping every day that by the time I got up into the office or people started coming in, I go to work pretty early, that they weren't as visible, but they never were.
Yeah, I had a CPAP for a while, and it had the dents in my face. So I would wake up and try to scrub my face with that. But yeah, I don't have it either anymore.
The
huge, you sent away at the train station too.
Oh, yeah.
How
So
just standing there was difficult.
Yeah, just standing anywhere. I would have fat guy pain, taking a shower, waiting in line at the bank, buying groceries, waiting. I used to take the train to work, and I would have to connect at one of the stations, and it was supposed to be 7 minutes, so it's rush hour, it's 7 minutes. And man, if it was 8 minutes, I was so angry, because I had to hoist, I had to support my own girth for 1 additional minute for 60 additional seconds. And it would make me so angry for the train to be late. I'd be wondering what was holding the train up. It's just like, the things that you think about when, you're constantly in pain, and it's been interesting, because that's been the biggest benefit from this for me, is that and it started to happen almost immediately. I would say that after a week of doing this, I felt like I was in noticeably less pain. I weighed 9 pounds less, and you sort of go back. I go back and forth between the scale victories and the non-scale, but the thing that sort of got me hooked and made me really want to commit to this was after a week, I felt better physically. I noticed that I felt better physically, and that's what sustained me over all these months, was just feeling better. But yeah, I'll never.
Do you feel, both of you, going forward, that do you both feel that it is sustainable going forward?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I never want to be back to where I was 14 months ago. And I feel like this way of eating, it's so healthy, it's so accessible. You can have as much variety or as little variety as you want, really. I mean, we have a huge list of foods we can pick from. You can eat vegetarian, you can eat vegan, you can eat meat, you can really eat paleo if you want. I mean, there's I wouldn't want to, but there's so many different options. I mean, I know you were saying about like food is fuel. I would caveat with that with food has never tasted better to me. The flavors and just appreciation of food that I have now, every meal that I sit down, it's like the best meal. It's like a 5-star restaurant. That's why I'm always like, you're such an amazing cook because the food, when you're hungry and you're just having these 3 meals, like the food is just, it's indescribable. It tastes better than any NMF that I ate before to me. So I say that all the time. I never want to eat NMF again because then I'm going to have, my taste buds are going to have to relearn how to appreciate real food like it does now. So I feel like it's very sustainable. I don't know if you, I mean, I can't count the number of NSVs and the weight loss has just been amazing, and the mental clarity and just not feeling like I have to worry about food anymore is so freeing. So
yeah, there's no more food chatter as long as you're staying within the lines. I have a question here. Do you have certain lunches that you rotate? Do you come up with routine lunches and breakfast, and what are they?
So lunch, we just eat leftovers. So he just cooks extra and we always eat leftover. I mean, every once in a while I'll cook like a big pot of beans or something, and we're both on maintenance. I like rice. So I like rice and beans for lunch now that I have a grain at lunch. But I would say 97% of the time it's just leftovers from our dinner. And then breakfast, we each prepare our own. So you've done pretty much the same breakfast the whole time. Potatoes, meat, protein, and fruit. Right. And then I like oatmeal, which I hated before Bright Line Eating. I hated oatmeal. I swore I would never eat oatmeal, and now I love it, and I look forward to it every morning.
Well, how do you make it in the morning?
So now that I'm on maintenance and I have double protein at breakfast, so I do oats. I do 1.5 servings of oats because that's my other maintenance ad. And then I cook it in almond milk because I love, it's like creamy with the almond milk. So that's my first protein. And then I add peanut butter and usually some seeds like sesame seeds or pumpkin seeds for a little bit of texture. And then whatever fruit, blueberries, I love bananas, mango is really good. So it's delicious. And I love peanut butter. So I eat peanut butter every day. I know that's controversial, but I love it. And it has never really impacted my weight loss as far as I can tell. It's not a trigger food for me. I just eat it with breakfast and I look forward to it and I eat it and then I'm satisfied. I also love sweet potato bowls, which are just like, I roast a bunch of sweet potatoes, just whole, and then mash it and do it with yogurt and fruit and peanut butter for protein. I usually split the yogurt and peanut butter. Amazing. So good. It's simple, great. But it's just delicious.
I do have a question here. Can you share a couple of your dinner menus?
Yeah, so last night for dinner, we had braised cabbage. So, pretty easy to prepare. And I pan fried some meatballs out of ground beef and ground pork. I should tell whoever asked that question, I'm not a fancy cook. I don't know how to cook things really. Like I know how to cook like the way a dude cooks. So I know how to make things on the stove or grill, or I know how to use the air fryer, and like I know how to braise cabbage and saute vegetables. It's like sort of a quirk for me is that I really don't like raw vegetables. So like every day I have like some sort of cooked vegetables. Usually like vegetables that I chop. Tonight I chopped up Brussels sprouts and carrots, and I put all of that and saute it until it's kind of tender without being soft in a pan, and I eat it like that. And we're having
delicious. That's great.
With carnitas, I put chicken in the air fryer. Pork chops. We had pork chops in the air fryer. Yeah, really like the air fryer. Pork chops, air fryer. Pork chops on Tuesday with. I forget.
Cauliflower rice.
Yeah, cauliflower rice. Yeah, cauliflower rice. That's
that's good stuff.
That's probably the thing that
I learned one time though, don't eat 14 ounces of it.
No.
It's too much.
I did not eat 14 ounces of butternut squash either. Take my word for it. I did that once and never again. Those were
Yeah.
10 and 10, and I was not feeling well at all. It was too much.
I had somebody ask, did you do the boot camp or were you strictly the book?
Just the book. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of
That's
the
right.
camp
Until
until
the
several
Facebook
months
group.
in. Yeah.
I cannot believe the time. We are getting close to the end, and I want to make sure that you have a minute to talk. I know there's somebody here either tonight or who's going to be watching this, and thank you for letting us record this. What would you tell them as far as whether they're like ready to jump in or if they were feeling like you were before you got in? What would you tell someone who is thinking about starting out bright? Doing bright line eating.
I'll go.
And maybe
I've,
as a couple.
I've gained weight and lost weight and failed miserably trying to lose weight countless times, hundreds of times. I feel like I would try different things every day at some point. The distance between wherever you are now and where you would like to be is nowhere near as far as you think. That's what I would tell them.
That's awesome. How about you, Sarah?
I would say that you really don't know what life has in store for you because it's hidden under the veil of flour and sugar and the addiction. That's what I didn't know. I didn't know how much I was missing. I thought I was a happy, well-adjusted, everything person. And wow, my life has just exploded with opportunity and clarity. And I just am such a different person than I was 14 months ago. So like I said in the beginning, I thought life wasn't worth living without flour and sugar. That was the thought that ran through my mind when I heard about this program. And I just had no idea what really living felt like.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being here tonight, sharing your story. And I know that you've given a lot of hope to people. I do have one more question. When do you think you reached automaticity? When was that happy moment? I know you talked about February, Manu, after you started December 31st, and by February, you noticed you weren't thinking about the food as much?
Yes,
Is that when the automaticity kicked in?
Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks, I stopped thinking about it. It was the point sort of, where you go through where like, I know how much 10 ounces is. I know how much, 4 ounces of grain is. And like it all, I was just doing it. I felt like, I didn't ever participate really on social media. And like, that was like, getting to, automaticity, so to speak, was like the first time, like I felt like I belong here. Okay. I'm one of these guys.
Yeah, for me, it was a little longer.
How about you, Sarah? About the same?
Yeah, a little longer. I definitely struggled with hunger longer, I think, than he did. And not that I broke my lines, but just that it was I had to be very tunnel vision and focused and, drink my tea and have my sparkling water. And that was like kind of the game I'd play with myself when I was hungry. Well, I'll have an extra sparkling water between lunch and dinner because I know that'll tide me over. So I would say it was more like 5 or 6 months for me before I really, before I really kind of settled into, and I mean, it got easier in waves, right? It wasn't like it was so hard that whole time, but to the point that I really wasn't thinking about food anymore, it was probably about 5 months, about the beginning of summer. And, we had COVID during that time too. So that kind of was a different,
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it came with good things because we were home more and we had more time to prep food. It didn't have to pack food out of the house, but it was still a big change with, the kids weren't in school and just all that stuff that happened. So I would say about 5 months.
Have
And
another.
I don't even think about it at all, ever.
So here's the tough question. Have you ever broken your lines?
So I have it on
Have you ever
purpose.
broken your lines?
I twice. Once in the beginning and once kind of recently. I was making PB&J for the kids and just like reflexively licked the knife. I did that twice. It tastes so weird.
So
Interesting. How about you, Sarah? Do you feel
I haven't really, I don't know how to say this. So sometimes my quantity lines have not been perfect. Sometimes I will weigh things a little extra and I just eat them, and I make peace with it, and it doesn't seem to affect my weight, and I don't do it all the time, but I get that is technically, I guess, a broken line. The one line that I've never broken, and it's very important to me, and I feel like it's maybe not addressed enough in the Bright Line Eating group and community, is I've never snacked since I started this program. I've never had anything with calories between meals, ever. So that the science.
not even bright line,
Nope.
not even bright food?
Nope. I've never eaten outside of a meal.
So there was a vlog on that. There was a vlog on that that is very useful, and it's the what do you call it? The intermittent reinforcement.
Yeah,
Which
intermittent reinforcement.
so that is really helpful to, and listening to that vlog. Come over to Starting Out Right. You'll see Sarah's sheet, and it's intermittent reinforcement. And what it basically is saying that if you give in to that urge now, your brain is saying next time, well, you remember last time, and then you do it again. So the longer that you have a part of those slips, the easier it is actually on the brain.
Yes. So that's the one line that I think is really critical, in the science in the book that she described about, letting our bodies, our hormones balance between meals and fasting. And there's another book that I read about intermittent fasting that kind of goes pretty deep into that science too. I think it's really important that we let our bodies recover from meals calorically, and not eating between meals is how we do that. So I was very strict on the BLTs, no bite, licks, or taste. Even when I was preparing meals, even of my own food, I would not eat any of it until I was sitting down, just like she says in the book, sitting down in front of my plate, and then I would have my first bite, because I was a notorious bite here,
Katie, bar the door.
Yes. So but yeah, I mean, overall, I would say very minimal lines, and it's been super minimal. We've never had really any need to resume between the two of us so far.
And I got to get this out of you, because
Did we
how do
lose
you
you?
get your kids to eat more vegetables? How do you get your kids to eat more vegetables?
You have to eat more vegetables.
You get your kids to eat.
I did. It was a mystery to me before we did this. I'm like, why is it so challenging? Why is it so hard to keep vegetables on the table? Why is it so hard to prioritize? And it was because they were always an afterthought. And the kids didn't see us eating vegetables, because we would just, have our little tiny serving at dinner, whatever, a little broccoli and call it good. And now it's a staple in our house. We eat 40 ounces between the two of us a day, and it's just normalized to them. So they know, oh, what vegetable am I having with this meal? And they don't always eat the same vegetable. Sometimes they love cucumbers. So we always have sliced cucumbers. So yeah, that's how you do it.
Well, I am seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat, and I want to echo that. You have inspired me, and I know you are inspiring many with sharing your story tonight. And I just really appreciate you doing that. So thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for putting that in the Starting Out Right group. That is so easy to find what topic. So if anybody's in the group, make sure and look under files for that. But I am going to say good night then. Good night to you. Thank you. And good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. Good night. Right. Thanks, you guys. I know there was a question about your spreadsheet, where if it's available. I don't know if it was about the spreadsheet or the Bright Line Eating sheet. That I can find a file and put it.
Yeah, the Bright Line Eating.
Or if you do.
Bright with Lines, the one we have on our fridge, I think that's in the Wheat Bright with Lines files is where.
Yeah, we should put that in the file.
Yeah, we
of
should
the
put it on
starting
the
out
thing,
bright.
yeah.
That would be really nice. But I know there's a lot of people here saying thank you. And next week we got Tony and Beth, so come on back.
Watching.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Noreen.
Thank you. Good night.